Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I am back. This is my December wrap up where I talk about all of the second half of the books that I read in the month of December for 25 Days of Manga and in general. Okay, so since this is the monthly wrap up, the final one for 2022, finally, I am going to jump right into those reading stats that I finally sat down and got together. So first up, I read a total of 21 books in the month of December. Yes. Yes. Pages read 5,080. Hours listened 16.5. Average reading was a 4.07, and I read 15 owned voices books, and that was a mix of racial and sexual identities. So let me know if I'm using own voices wrong because of the amount of manga I've been reading. That counts as own voices because they're written by Asian people, Japanese people specifically, and yeah. So, the genres. Now, some I left without genres this time because, again, they don't seem to fit a particular genre or subgenre, I should say. I read one magical realism, which I don't know what else to call it. It's a light fantasy. Cozy fantasy is a new term that's been working around here, and yeah, that was The Conductors, which I had told you gave me cozy mystery vibes, but there is a fantasy element, but it's kind of light. So it could also, I guess, be urban? No. Historical fiction? Historical fantasy? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. I read 2 contemporary romances, 4 epic or high fantasy books, one romantic suspense, one other, 4 horror books. Why did I do that to myself? 1 paranormal romance, 2 urban fantasies, 1 superhero fantasy, 2 slice of life, 1 fantasy romance, and 1 alternate history. Maybe The Conductors could also be alternate history? Okay, the formats. I read 2 audiobooks, or listened to 2 audiobooks, 1 ebook, and 18 physical books. For the forms, I read them in. I read 5 novels, 13 manga, and 3 graphic novels. For the audience demographics, I read 10 adult and 11 young adult. Next year, I will work on adding, I guess, josei, shonen, shoujo, those kind of things for the manga. But generally, I just split them up. If it was josei or seinen, I put adults. If they were shonen or shoujo, I put young adult. Roughly, that's where they go. And now for the identities. Of course, first we start off with the gender identity, and I read 17 cisgender books, 3 books with gender fluid characters. For the racial identities, I read 13 books with Asian main characters, 1 book with a black main characters, and 4 books with white main characters, and 2 books with indigenous main characters. For the sexual identities, I read 2 boy love or male love male books, and everyone else was straight presenting, it seems, main character wise. With regards to the authors, I read 12 new to me authors and 9 not new to me authors. For the types of books I read, 2 standalones, or I finished 2 standalones. I read 19 books in series and 1 reread. Just one. Last, but definitely not least, we have the ratings. I read 1 5-star book, 6 4.5-star books, 9 4-star books, 5 3.5-star books, and I actually did DNF 2 books. On December 31st, I decided we're done. And I'm not counting them towards my total books read thing, but since we mentioned them, let's talk about the books. One is one I started way earlier this year, and I just couldn't force myself to finish it, and I thought maybe later in the year, but for now I'm just gonna give up on this series as a whole. Maybe in the future I'll be interested in trying to come back to it, but at this point I ain't. And that was The House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. It's Crescent City number 2. It's not gonna happen. I was very frustrated with this, how this world is being presented to us in the first book, and that frustration continued in the second one. After the first chapter or so, getting my hopes up, and added to it the romance, just like a wrench was thrown in that for reasons that make no sense to me. And once I put it down, I did not want to pick it back up. So yeah, came to the end of the year, and I was about to DNF another book, and I was like, you know what, let's not do this. The other book was The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. I kind of feel bad for this, but I was listening to this, I got a little past 100 pages in, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about this family. It was mildly interesting, and then we started following this guy who was gonna marry one of the daughters, and due to circumstances beyond his control, he didn't, and he went off into the countryside and became this embittered, bigoted, rich asshole. And bigoted, abusive, and just, I could not take any more of his section, and I was like, I don't want to read this. Generational family sagas sound interesting, but I need to like the people, and what I was getting was bits and pieces of everybody, and I was like, okay, these people sound, but not sticking with them. And the person that we wound up really sticking with was not somebody I liked at all. Like, I felt bad for him in the beginning, but then once he went off into the countryside, and it was like, I'm making the people better, and then he's having sex with every female of as soon as she's of age to conceive, and just having these babies but not taking care of them, and then, talking to people about how he's the people of the countryside are stupid and they couldn't do anything without him. And I was just like, I don't want to hear this. I really don't. This was one of my 12 book challenge books. 12 books recommended by 12 friends in 12 months. And yeah, I realized I was behind on that, so I was trying to. But this ain't it. This ain't it. Even in audio, I could not force myself to continue, so I DNF. Sorry, Anton. It would have been nice to read a different type of Latine book than I have before, but this wasn't the one for me. So those are the DNFs. Now back to the books I actually read and completed and liked in some way, shape, or form. So where I left you off was roughly halfway through the books. And another book that I accidentally already returned to the library, another manga as part of the 25 Days of Manga, which, as I explained in the previous video, is a reading challenge in December created by Shay Geeks Out. Try to read 25 books in 25 days, or read manga for 25 days. She did again allow us to include any graphic works, so comic books, graphic novels, manhwa, that kind of thing, web comics, you know. So that's what I did, but the first one I want to talk about is Beastars. This is by Haru Itagaki. This story is interesting. We're following these anthropomorphized animals who all go to this school, but they're kind of separated into the categories of carnivore and herbivore. And we start off volume 1 with one of the herbivores has been violently killed in the school, and everyone is like, one of the carnivores must have done it. And one of the main suspects is a canid. I think, if I remember correctly, he is a wolf. One of the biggest of the anthropomorphized animals there, but also one of the quietest and one of the ones who keeps to himself. So the story continues from there, but not in a very straightforward fashion. Both Shay and I think Izzy and also Ashley had talked about this series, so that's why I picked it. I was like, this sounds somewhat interesting. They're like, it's not what you think it is, and it definitely is not. It ain't go anywhere that I thought it would. The art style, it makes me want to like back off on some of the others. I'm like, I don't really like this art style. I'm so picky. But this is way more sketchy. The book covers are beautiful, but it's manga, so the pages are black and white. And so it looks even more sketch-like. And there's just some washes of various shades of gray, it seems. And I was just like, oh, this feels incomplete. It also, though, adds to the tension. So if you don't mind the art style, then yeah. Obviously, I want to continue this series, so it is going into the book bracket. I'm not sure where it's going exactly. I thought it seems from the covers and from the synopsis that it would be a little more lighthearted, but this is more serious, and it's not in a violent way. It's very reflective, I think. It seems very much like a character study of this society and how people think, whether they're carnivores or herbivores or omnivores, because those exist, and how all of these different species in the various categories relate to each other and how they see each other and themselves. I am very intrigued by the leader or the lead actor, who is an herbivore, but very charismatic. I don't know where this series is leading us, but we have our assumptions about herbivores and carnivores, and they're on the page, so it's very interesting to see those kind of things. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I finished, My Summer of You, or The Summer of You, Volume 1, it gets very confusing because both Storygraph and Goodreads and the books pop up for either title. We're following 2 best friends. We find out that one likes the other. He kind of confesses, and it's not a big deal, like, I want you to date me. It's just, I like you. This happens after he asks his friend to, like, spend this summer with him, hanging out. They're both movie buffs, so, like, these movies that they really like, they spend the summer going to the locations of some of the shots in the movies, and it's generally just a low-key good time. Very, very little angst. Most of it coming from the guy who finds out he is the crush. And he doesn't know what to do with that information, which, I'm finding I kind of like. The whole, okay, I wasn't expecting that, and you like me? What am I supposed to do with this information? Kind of thing. I think it's cute. They were very cute. Like, even if there was no romantic interest, I'd have been like, I like this. So yeah, slice of life manga for the most part. That was this. I gave this 4.5 stars because I thoroughly enjoyed it. There is, I believe, only one other volume of this, so this is not going into the book bracket, or the manga bracket, I should say, because I'm just going to read the next one and be done with it. The next book I finished needs to go back to the library desperately, and that is Heaven Official's Blessing, Volume 2. MXTX, Mo Xiang Tongshu. And I'm not great at pronouncing Chinese, so please. Gave this 4 stars, first of all. How do I put this? I've been reading this for months. Not really. But the thing is, alright, so recently, MXTX, a lot of their Danmei series have been officially translated into English. For many years prior to this, fan translations have been uploaded online. Many with her permission, and a lot of work has been put into those. A friend of mine who very much loves Danmei had introduced me to this series and one other which I hadn't gotten to yet. So about 2 years ago, I started this reading fan translations. However, this is the full story is really long. It's something like 2,050 pages in English. So I read, I believe, the first arc at roughly 500 pages, and it was a lot. A lot happened, and so I put it down. At the end of 2021, it was announced that official translations were coming out. Fan translations were no longer okay, and if you didn't take your sites down or something like that, they will be forcibly be taken down. Okay. Knowing how popular these are, and look at these gorgeous covers. I saw that my library actually had them, so I was like, let me get back to this. I thought there were going to be 4 volumes, so obviously 2,050 pages broken up by 4. I read roughly 500 already, so volume 2 is where I should be up to. I started reading this, and I was confused. Why does this sound so similar? It's been over a year since I've read the last one, and I was like, I don't know, but I'm not reading 500 pages again. So I'm just going to throw myself in and see. But I was confused. And then I was like, well, this sounds familiar. Let me skip another 50 pages. And lo and behold, way back here is where Arc 2 starts. So I went and I finally explained to my friend the frustration I've been going through for months with this book. And she's like, girl, there's going to be 8 volumes. Hence, roughly 500 pages means 2 volumes. No, but anyway, Arc 2 began here. I needed to get to start with volume 2 since Arc 2 started here, but this was the only new thing I read. And it took me a while because I started it like 3 or 4 months ago, but we don't pick up where this left off. This is a very long flashback, which once I like sat down and like put my brain to understand that, it was interesting. But at first, I was just like, I want to know what happens next with Shinla and Fengxing and everyone. I don't want to go back to the past. But anyway, the last section is glossary and an explanation for some things. So I want to say not only are these covers beautiful, and I feel like the translation is still very similar to what I read online. I'm not going to get into which fan's translation I read, but a very popular and good one. What I can say, the 4 stars goes to what I read here, not my frustration and confusion. But in this Danmei, we're following Shilan, who was, after, living a very good life, was ascended to heaven to become one of the heavenly officials, of which there are many. And unfortunately, on his first ascension, he gets kicked out of heaven and sent back to Earth. Not to be reborn, just to be like this spirit wandering the earth doing God knows what. Then some time passes, he gets ascended again, but unfortunately, once again, gets kicked out. And I think he's the only one who's been kicked out of heaven twice. So now this is his 3rd time here when we start of becoming a heavenly official, and he's got a reputation, obviously. So he's going through it. But so we're following him as he's, an official for the 3rd time. But it's not going smoothly. Not only does he have this reputation and none of the other heavenly officials really trust him or even want him around, but he gets into all kinds of shenanigans, including now being associated with Hua Cheng, one of the 4 calamities, kind of like the supposedly evil aspects. This is really hard to explain, and I am not Chinese or of Chinese descent. I know enough to get what's happening here, but it's really hard to explain because this is not the heaven or hell that the average Western Christian is familiar with. This is a boy love series, so eventually Xiaolan and Xiaolian and some other guy will get together, but it is super slow burn. There are very amusing parts. I like Shilan and Hua Cheng and some of the other heavenly officials, but there's a lot of people also, and it's just like 4 stars. I do want to continue. God, please, volume 3. Can we get back to present day? The next book I finished, the next manga for 25 Days of Manga. Pretty Guardian, Sailor Moon, Volume 1. These are the Eternal Editions. I haven't read this since I was a kid, and I watched the anime, and I want to read. I started watching Sailor Moon Crystal, which I think goes along with this one. This is like a collected edition. New, definitive edition. The story is pretty much the same as I remember it. This is like the classic Magic Girl manga. We're following Usagi, who is a young 14-year-old girl in Japan who is not the best at school or at anything. She's a bit of a klutz. one day she comes across this magic cat that talks to her and tells her that she is a superhero that is supposed to save the world by finding this special crystal and this moon princess who is the owner of the crystal. And Usagi's like, what the hell are you talking about? As we go forward, the cat, Luna, helps Usagi find the other Sailor Scouts who also are supposed to be working together to find this crystal and protect the Moon Princess. They're fighting against these evil people who they don't quite understand. As we go through, Usagi is just really like, I didn't ask for this. I just want to look at pretty things and boys and gossip. That's it. She's a little annoying, but she's young and like, you get it. So this is a fun reread, and it's exactly like I remember it. Four stars? Yes. I'm not adding that to the book bracket. The next book I finished is A Silent Voice Volume 1. This is by Yoshitoki Oima. In this, we are following Shoya, who is a bully. And this new girl that comes to his school that turns out to be Death. He, out of boredom, really decides to start bullying her. And the other kids in his class start doing the same thing. And the big thing, it escalates to the point where they start stealing and destroying her hearing aids. And the mom is like, that's not okay. We know that eventually he comes to regret it and he wants to make up for it. He was an asshole. But it seems like so was most of the class. I'm not quite sure what his friends' issues were. I get it, but also I guess maybe they weren't friends. I don't know. I also don't understand what's up with Shoya, like with the boredom, I guess. I think it's boredom. He's just like, let me try this and whatever. I'm intrigued enough. I want to continue to see how he wants to potentially redeem himself or make her life a little better if they meet up again. I have my doubts about whether I like any of the ideas the author comes up with, but I don't know what those will be. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I definitely want to try volume 2 of this and see what's going on. So yes, going in the book bracket. The next book I finished, I did not like. But I gave it a 4.5 stars. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I've been hearing about this for a little while now. And this year in particular, I kept hearing about Stephen Graham Jones a lot because I've been watching more of the Lock Booticians videos, and Brie loves her some Stephen Graham Jones. And then when I went to look up it's an audiobook that came in, and I started reading it. Let me tell you, if nothing else, this solidified that horror is not my genre. I was horrified through quite a lot of it. Like another book that I read this year, I really recognize the writing of the plotting, the character. Oh my god, it's just so amazing and incredible and good, but the genre. I felt so bad for these guys. So The Only Good Indians, it followed 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event in their youth, puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives, tracked by an entity bent on revenge. So they're childhood friends who grew up on a reservation. They went hunting where they were not supposed to be hunting and killed something they weren't supposed to kill, and it came back to haunt them, literally. If this was their imagination or actual spirit or what's going on, I was like this quite often. Not scared or terrified, but very tense and just off put completely. And I have a lot of respect for Stephen Graham Jones now for putting me in that uh, emotional state, this strong emotional state. But I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I'm not going to be reading anymore Stephen Graham Jones. For 4.5 stars. Guys, if you like this kind of thing. And the ending, I was just like, really? Really? I just, I did not need all of that. The characterization is, and that is so good that I am hurt. Like, that's just not fair. It's not fair. I don't appreciate Stephen Graham Jones putting me through that. So after that, I was like, okay, let me find another romance manga. And one of the ones I have been looking at was The King's Beast, Volume 1. And this is by Rei Toma, who is apparently very popular. Fortunately, I don't even know how, but 3.5 stars is what we got here. This is, I guess, like supposed to be like a fantasy romance. I think that's what I put. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one I put as a fantasy romance. We've got a prince who needs a magical beast guard to protect him, as all of the princes or all of the royal family has. His old guard was killed, but now the new guard is disguising themselves. These guards with magical abilities they have some sort of animal traits along with their magical abilities. This seems very predictable to me, and I did not care not a bit about any of these people. So I was disappointed because, yeah, Rose and Blood was kind of predictable, but I liked it and I liked the characters and I was interested in learning more about them. With this, not so much. I don't think I'll be continuing, but yeah, his new bodyguard, they have terms for it, is actually the sister of his old bodyguard who was killed. And she has built herself up to this place of importance so that she can be chosen as his bodyguard because she wants to get revenge for her brother's death, which she believes is this prince's fault. And yeah, we go from there. She disguises herself as a boy, or as male, I should say. This is one of the ones that I did mark as gender fluid, but you can decide for yourselves. It's not literal gender fluidity here. This is not literal transgender. Maybe more cross-dressing than anything else. But I'm not sure how exactly everything works yet. Because very little about the world was really explained. It was just a lot of not talking. Purposeful miscommunication. I did not include it, I don't think, in the manga bracket because I'm just like, nah. The next manga for 25 Days of Manga, Fruits Basket, the Collector's Edition, Volume 1 by Natsuki Takaya. Again, I only picked this up, one, because my library has them, and they're very cute. Each volume spine has a different color. Ashley and Shay both are like, yeah, this is great. And I'm reading this like, what's so great about it? I like the art style, but it's like a very traditional, modern, I think, manga art style. The synopsis is we have a young girl who has lost her mother and now is an orphan. She was sent to live with her grandfather, but for a couple of months, he's having his house renovated and they can't stay there. He can stay with his other children, but they don't have space for her. So she decides she is going to go like live in the woods for some dumbass reason. But like, can you tell I didn't love this? Because any other manga, I'd be like, that was not well advised. So she's doing that for a couple of months. This really popular boy at school sees her, and turns out he lives in a house in the woods with his friend. And he's like, what is this chick doing? So they offer for her to stay in their house until her grandfather's house is renovated. She starts finding out about the clan secrets, and it goes from there. The clan secrets basically like they're all animals of the Chinese zodiac. It was cute, like the friendship and all of that, and we meet more than just the two in the beginning. But it's just like, but why? But why? I want to continue to see more why, but it's barely an interest. Barely. Like, if this wasn't a collected edition with two of the regular Talking About volumes in one, I probably would not be continuing. So technically I read two, but there's a bunch. There's like 23 of these collected editions. With that being said, I rated this 3.5 stars as well. It is going into the manga bracket because I like to torture myself. Apparently. Last but not least, I read 20th Century Boys, The Perfect Editions, Volume 1. Now, this is a manga that I had heard about from L's husband. Like, he had a bunch of manga that he recommended. This is seinen, I believe. And I wasn't sure. I remember in his recommendation video when he talked about it, he was just like effusive, right? I didn't feel like he gave a lot of details about what this was about. And so I was like tentatively interested because he didn't seem like the type of guy to like go on and on about how great and wonderful something was without good reason, right? He doesn't come on her channel very often. He's not very talkative. So all the things he said, like, this is not the only manga I picked up on his recommendation and liked. I picked up Vinland Saga. So yeah, I put this off because I thought this was going to be dry and boring. I knew it being seinen, it was probably going to have more text. And like Vinland Saga, I enjoyed, but it was a lot, which is why I haven't picked up the next volume yet. So I devoured this in a day. Now, that's not really saying a lot because it's manga, but also, holy shit, this is the thickest manga I have read in the last 2 or 3 months, or like ever, maybe. I was hooked from the first page. I am desperate to read the next one. So this is on the book bracket. I guess it's 4.5 stars because I need to know what happens next. Humanity, having faced extinction at the end of the 20th century, would not have entered the new millennium if it weren't for them. In 1969, during their youth, they created a symbol. In 1997, as the coming disaster slowly started to unfold, that symbol returns. This is the story of a group of boys who try to save the world. So hooked on these boys. I found out Naoki Urasawa is also the author of Monster, which I know several people are currently group reading on the BookTube. Like, the storytelling, the writing style, the art. I don't love the art, but you know, I don't. When do I love the art? But it works, and I don't care. A wonderful end to 2022. That definitely is going on the book bracket, and depending on some things, because I've already started, I've got, I'm down to the last 2 series. I'll post a video about who is winning or whatever. Ooh, so yeah, guys, let me know if you participated in the 25 days of manga. What did you read? Did you enjoy your stuff? How was your last month of reading in the month of December? Guys, leave me a book stack emoji down below if you've made it this far and you want to support, but don't know what to say. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. Links in the description to everything I mentioned here, as well as those I talked about, and a 10% off discount code to my Etsy shop where I make all natural bath and body products. If you want to check that out. Start thinking about Valentine's Day, guys, because bath and body gifts for your loved ones, all natural. You're thinking about their health as well as their wellness and happiness. I also have links to my Storygraph and Goodreads if you would like to follow me there, or social media accounts. And guys, Happy New Year. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.